Hi, everybody. Welcome to the PWZ podcast. I have a very special guest today in Ref Bill Thompson. Ref Bill, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. I'm very glad to have you here. First off, I just want to ask you. You are probably one of the, I'd say, busiest referees in the Northeast. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Before
Sure.
COVID. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before COVID. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen you pop up at a lot of places. Especially prior to COVID, you were working everywhere, and then obviously very limited schedule for the last year. But since then, I've seen you come up a lot of places. So I want to ask you, how did you actually get into professional wrestling?
It's kind of an interesting story, or I think it's interesting. You might fall asleep at this point. I actually started. I've been a fan for years. I mean, since I was a kid, the old Georgia Championship Wrestling days. I loved, and I actually by accident found a local access show called The Squared Circle in North Haven TV. Just flipping through the channels one night. And I said, "Who are these guys?" And they started talking about wrestling. I was like, "Oh!" So I was listening. Long story short, I kind of called in, became like a voice of coming in and asking really good questions because I understood the business from a fan's perspective. I like to think I had a bit deeper. They eventually asked me on the show. I eventually started doing a number of shows with them, and I did I got a call one night that they were at a show and they were trying to get someone to record for Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling. And I had been to a few of their shows and had met a few people. I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll go." It was 20 minutes from my house tops where the event was. Went there, set up recording, did what I normally do. Anything I could do to help was fine. And Mario Mancini, who was one of the owners, was talking, and I thought he was talking to somebody else, and he said, "Hey, Bill, I think I'm talking to you." So I went over and I said, "What's going on?" We were just talking about wrestling. I was asking him a ton of questions, and he goes, "You'd be a good referee." And I said, "Really?" He says, "Yeah." He goes, "We could put you in a bow tie and a old school shirt." And he says, "You should come down to the school." And I was doing some things with them to help out. So I went down one night and met Paul Roma, and he promptly said, "What are you standing there for? If you want to be a referee, you got to get in the ring." I got in there. Literally, my knees were knocking like crazy, because I was like, "Oh my God, Paul Roma!" He yelled at me. So I'm in there. I was in there 15, 20 minutes, and he said, "What do you think?" I says, "Oh yeah." I says, "Yeah, yeah," and I was hooked. I mean, I was hooked before. I was hooked as soon as I walked into the building. And I started my referee training with Mario Mancini on a Monday night. Actually, El Ref, who I know you are familiar with,
Yep.
we went in together. We would go in on Monday nights and work with whoever we could. We just worked on our basic stuff that we learned, stuff that Mario taught us, and we eventually got to what they called the veterans class on a Wednesday night, which was a whole nother ball game because you're in the ring with these guys, from Richard Holiday, Matthias, the Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling champion, Showtime Marcel Williams, HOP, and oh my God, you're just working with these guys, and it kind of went on for there. We trained for probably, I would say, give or take about 6 months. We lugged rings back and forth. We became very good at, which is a forgotten craft as part of being a referee, is learning how to put the ring together and take the ring apart. And then one day we had our gear, and Paul said, "Your names are on the board. Get over there and do what you got to do." And it took off from there. So, I started getting in the ring, and I've been going ever since.
What was the training like? I know professional wrestling as an actual wrestler, it's extremely hard. I mean, I've never done it, but from what I've heard, I've interviewed quite a few people. As a referee, isn't any different, harder or less hard?
Clearly, we're not taking all the physical bumps
Right.
in the but it's really kind of you're not taking that. Some of the matches are 15, 20 minutes, could be 30 minutes,
Right.
could be an hour. But as a referee, you're out there maybe in some cases the entire show.
Right.
So training was a lot of learning how to properly stage yourself in the ring to be able to count. As easy or as hard as it looks to actually count, there is a science to doing it without either
Right.
dislocating your wrist or breaking your forearm. We learned how to exit the ring if we get knocked out of the ring. There was a couple Saturdays, all we did was learn how we got knocked off the top rope, thrown over the top rope, thrown through the middle rope, thrown through the bottom, back to the top. I could tell you that El Ref and I had rope burns up and down parts of our body that we can't say on your podcast. And
We've gotten pretty gruesome here.
yeah. El Ref has we have a couple really funny stories between the both of us. But yeah, we took a lot of abuse. I mean, not abuse in a bad way, but it was like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
It was more that was letting you know these are the things that could happen, and this is what you have to be prepared for to be safe and to protect yourself.
Right.
So a lot of it was a lot of the nuances of trying to make sure you're getting in there and counting people in the corners, your 5 counts, your 10 counts, what happens when they go outside the ring. It's all the different rules, but then you really get the basics, and then you're going to the shows, and that's where you have your toolbox. And then when you start going into the shows, that's when you're throwing extra things in your toolbox. I mean, we were taught, I've been told I'm a very vocal referee. And that's something that was kind of like, be vocal, enunciate, because the fans in the front row can hear you, but fans in the back rows hear you.
Right.
So you've seen me work, I'm fairly animated so that the fans know, hey, if someone's getting their hair pulled, I'm yelling, get off the hair. The counts, the different things. So it was really, it was a long process. It wasn't something where I've seen some schools where, and nobody in particular, but I say to referees, I'm like, how long have you been doing this? They're like, well, I trained last week and they're putting me in a match now. I'm like, oh, okay. So we were fairly prepared, and it worked out very well because I think that the longer we spent with Paul and Mario, Paul Perez, who's one of the co-owners, Big Steve Tracy, they wanted us to look professional. They talked about making sure you had your black shoes and you had your black pants and you had your zebra shirt and you looked professional in the ring and you looked clean and you looked good. But the thing is like putting together that whole package of being a professional, showing up, doing the things you need to do. And when people talk about you, hey, this guy's a professional, this is what they do. And honestly, the training never really stops. I mean, you're learning show, you're learning, there's so many different situations. You're learning how not to get hurt. You're learning what to do in the event that somebody gets hurt in the ring. That's something that I pride myself on. I'm always, you've seen some of these hits these guys take. It's like you don't see referees really move. I'm very, very attuned to that. Looks really bad. If I think it looks bad, it could be worse, and checking on people. Right. It's just part of the process. It's really never ending, but you get the basics and then you move on from there.
I've seen you pay very close attention to certain guys. Like if they took a certain bump, such as guys like Flash Baller, who's gone off the rope into the floor. Like you're very attentive to saying, hey, you're okay.
Yeah.
Move, yada, yada, stuff like that. I'm speaking verbatim, but that's always a good thing because it's like, I worry about guys like that. And that's just very important as part of being like a referee. Make sure that these guys are okay on top of being able to compete as well.
Yeah. It's one of those things. I think it's a thing where it's better to be safe than sorry. Like I had an occasion where I didn't check on somebody right away. I got distracted and I went out there and I'm like, I said, you okay? They're like, nope. And I'm like, oh, by that time, the person had already started to grab them. And I basically kind of leaned on them and said, hey, this guy's hurt. And then, the match was what the match was, but it was like, this person's hurt. give me a second. And I learned that you have to, it's like a boxing match or an MMA match. It's like something, hey, give me a second. Are you good? They're like, yeah. The individual happened to get hit in the throat. And I was just like, back off. And getting a little bit of the business from, the other competitor. And I'm like, back off. I'm like, are you good to go? And they're like, yeah. I said, okay. I said, let's go. Let's finish the match. So.
What was it like your first match out there after, getting into the ring? Were you nervous in front of like a group of people?
Yeah, it's a very, and I get that question a lot. How did you feel? It's like the longest part of the match was me running from the locker room to the ring. Okay. And once you get in the ring, it's really just you and the wrestlers or the talent in the ring. I hear the fans, I hear the cheers, I hear the screaming, but it's like it's kind of muted because I'm so much, because you have to remember, we're all fans, regardless if you're a wrestler, right. You're still a fan and you still want to see good matches. So I'm in there and I'm very, very attuned to what's going on because I have a dual job. It's like I'm a fan. I'm like, oh my God, wow, that was amazing. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, you're a referee. You have to go count now, or you have to go check, or you have to figure out what happened, who's cheating, whatever it is. So for me, my first match, the longest walk was from the back room to the ring and then out of the ring back. But the funny story there is my first match was Nutrius X against Mateus. And the thing that went wrong was what I was worried about is Mateus was kicked in the nose. And when he came up, he had blood all over, was coming down his nose. And I was like, oh shit, excuse my language. And so I pushed off Nutrius X and I rolled in and I looked at him and says, are you good? And I said, are you good? And he looked at me and says, your nose isn't broken. There's just a lot of blood. I go, I think you're fine. And then the match continued. And he said to me after the match, he said to me that that was so important to him that I was able to give him that information so quickly because all he knew is there was blood all over the place. And I told him, I says, nose isn't broken. You took a shot to the face. I think you're good. And then they just continued to go. And I think he won that match. So, yeah.
Right. Let's see. You've had the privilege of working with so many great talents in your time. I know you worked with Killer Cross prior to signing with WWE. Just incredible. Trying to think of who else, but what's it like working with those guys and just those guys in general?
Yeah, it's to a certain extent. I mean, they're all different people, but they're different. I'll tell you, I think he's Karrion Kross in the NXT now. He truly a humble guy. I was nervous because I had seen his work at Impact. I think he was in MLW at that time and was transitioning over.
He did a couple shots. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. And met him. Him and the young man, last name was, I'm saying Green. And I think it was Anthony Green, not the Anthony Green, but
not the one that's in NXT now.
No.
Okay.
And I apologize to him if I'm wrong, but they had a very shoot match where they were holds and submissions, and Karrion Kross ended up tapping him out. But at the end, I said, "Was there anything?" And he's like, "No." He goes, "You did a really great job." He goes, "What did you think of the match?" And I'm always very careful because I don't like to critique. I always just say, "These are the things that I liked. These are the things the fans liked." I says, anything that you think you need to work on, obviously that's something you're good with.
Right.
But yeah, I worked with Crowbar.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, really nice guy. Just incredible. Funny stories with him is I've done a few of his matches and I'm like, I've gone in and he's just, he's bleeding and I'm like, brother, dude, I'm like, you're really busted open. He's like, I'm all right, dude. Don't worry. I could take it, And so you feel good about it, but you're like, the professionals, the true guys that have been around for a number of years. And that's just not the big names. There's some folks out there that have been wrestling for 15, 20 years, and they're very well known. It's just, there's just a different professionalism with it. There's, you could tell they've been there. They're smooth. There are things that they are like, hey, this is what we're going to do. They try to keep it in some way, shape, or form simple. They want to make sure that there's a good match, that they're both competitive. And I've had relatively good experiences. I just did Blitzkrieg Pro last week, and I was in the ring with Max Caster from AEW, VSK from Creator Pro Champion, and then Brian Myers, formerly known as Kurt Hawkins in the WWE. I did their match, and they were all very happy. For full disclosure, I did sustain an injury. So I was hurt during that match, midway through the card, and basically did from the middle part of the match to the very end in severe pain. So yeah, they were complimentary, and I'm like, okay, cool.
You were able to recover.
Yes, as I could. Yeah. Yes.
I've seen you take quite a few bumps. You got speared, I think, once. I'm trying to remember. That was somewhat recently.
Chris Battle in the Battle Academy out of Paradise Alley.
What do you think of that angle that's going on? Because literally right now, I think that's my favorite thing that's going on in Paradise Alley is the whole Battle Academy versus the Miracle Generation. It's been a great series, and the talents. I mean, I know the Battle Academy guys are all the kids coming up, correct? The students, I believe, and the guys, the Haven, all those guys, Miracle Generation guys have been there a little while and put on some incredible matches. But I just think the storyline and the way it's unfolding is it's really great wrestling storyline.
Yeah, it's a tremendous book. The interesting thing is that Flash Waller, I did his first match. Kylon Kings, I did his first match. The Haven, I think I did their first and or second match. Couple of the kids from Battle Academy, I did their first match. And I think the whole booking of it with regards to the experience and talent level of Chris Battle, and this the whole thing, it's got that, it gives me that old style, like, Mid-Atlantic,
Yes,
Memphis kind of feel about it, where you're all of a sudden you're getting these pieces coming in, and then it just kind of blows up into a big thing. So yeah, it's definitely a hot rivalry, and I honestly I think that's gonna, just the way it's going, I think that's gonna be continuing for a while. So
I was there the evening that the Battle Academy troop, I guess, group came from the crowd while you were knocked down and gave Flash the nut shot. And I was like, oh my God, that's so awesome. Like, it was totally unexpected. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and it was really good. It was just really good storytelling, the whole thing. And then the last show, the match was really good too.
Yeah.
So it's just been something that I've been really looking forward to as part of that entire series. Paradise Alley. Paradise Alley is it's probably the number one promotion that I attend shows of, and that's pretty much your home promotion, correct?
Yeah, that's my that's my Northern Star. Although I'd say my daughter's my North Star all the time, but that's my home. They have first preference on any kind of any card that comes up. If anybody else, unless there's some major thing where I've planned that well in advance, they are the place that I work. That's my consistent place to work. So
there's worked several other organizations in the North and Northeast. I know I've seen you at American Coliseum? Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I remember that when you came down to the American Coliseum Wrestling with Kevin Apollo.
Right.
I think it's like New York, New Jersey kind of area, but great guy. Good promotion. I think it's very hard for him to book in that area. But he's done some really good stuff, and I keep in I kind of keep in contact with a lot of the promoters, just even if it's just to say, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. I hope everything's going well. So Kevin's a very nice guy. He's treating me very well. So
They haven't. I think it's nobody's running in New York yet. New York, New Jersey yet, as far as shows, from what I've gathered. I think that's supposed to be opening up this summer.
The only thing I've seen is Battle Club Pro.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. I got to look. They may not be running out of New York. They may be running out of just over the line into Jersey.
Okay.
I've worked for them. I worked for them once. And I always have to pronounce Giacomo. I think it's Morales. I kind of keep in contact with him every once in a while. During COVID, I tried to really just say, hey, just checking in, seeing how your families are doing.
Right.
If anything bad, I was like, what could I do to help you out? So, so there's a lot of good stuff out there. I get around. I do get around.
Yeah, I know I've seen you've been on Test of Strength shows, and then I'm trying to remember, but you recently made your Northeast Wrestling debut on their TV show Studio Wars. So
yes.
How did that come about, and what was that experience like?
That was, as I'm smiling, as I'm saying, that was really something that kind of came out of, kind of not out of nowhere, but it did. I was kind of made reference to, and someone's like, hey, you might be getting a phone call from somebody. And the thing is, I've worked with so many people who have done stuff with them, and kind of backtracked a little bit. I actually went and did the Bethany show probably maybe a year and a half ago. I went and I worked the ring crew there. Went up there just to help out, just to talk to people, get to see people I know. It's because it's fun, because there's a lot of people that you work with, but just because you go to a wrestling show doesn't mean that everybody's wrestling. People just show up, wrestlers,
Right.
just to hang out, and they travel together. And I ended up helping out with the ring. I ended up staying later, cleaning up, doing everything else. And I had a couple of people say, hey, we really appreciate everything. I did some other stuff for them, and I was invited, was reached out. It's like Mike Lombardi basically reached out to me and said, hey, we're doing some Studio Wars. Would you be interested in coming? And I said, I could be there now if you need me. And he said, we don't need, I think he said something like, laughed, but he was like, this is the date, this is the time. I went up there. I try to pride myself on getting to the venues early. I did some things to help out, clean up, set up, and then I got invited back again, and I got invited back to another event. So, it was one of those things where it's, it was a nice thing, and I'm just very happy and grateful for the fact that I got invited and that I've been able to work the shows, whatever capacity it is. I got to meet, Matt Taven. Matt Taven had, I had met him before, but he knew who I was, but I was up there and he's like, oh, you did a great job. He's patting me on the back, and I'm just like, oh my God, Matt Taven's patting me on the back, and it's like, but it's a nice feeling when people of a certain level will say, hey, you have a good work ethic, we appreciate what you do, you're a really hard worker, so you're doing the right thing. And that's where I was telling referees, I'm like, don't limit yourself, get there early, help out. You should be willing to do everything you can to make that promotion better or elevate the level of the talent that you're working with, whether it's inside or outside the ring.
So they're returning 2 live events. Do you know anything about that yet? Like, are you going to be, do you plan on being a part of it, or you haven't heard anything yet?
I know I'm doing some work with them in the summer, and I basically offer my services to just help out.
Right.
And then I harken back to the Denzel Washington quote: "Is if you hang around the barbershop long enough, you're bound to get a haircut." So if you hang around a
Right.
wrestling ring as a talent, as a referee, somebody's going to say eventually, get him in the ring. So
Right.
I found that works for me. And I tell referees, I'm like, just don't show up at 20 minutes before the show and say, hey, do you need somebody? Get there, do the ring. That's the thing is nobody likes lugging a ring around. And so if you're willing to do that, someone's going to say, you know what, they busted their butt. Let's give them a shot. So, yeah, hopefully I'll hear some stuff. And if I don't, and I just work ring crew and do other things, I'm sure something good will happen.
Right. I know they were booked. They announced a Southington show for this June something. I don't remember. I have the date in my phone, but I plan on going to that. I haven't been to a Northeast wrestling show since the North Haven Fair. Probably it's got to be almost 2 years ago now. And that was a really fun show. It's funny because some of those people are on TV now that were on there, like Christian Casanova is in NXT now. So, and I got to interview JT Dunn just a few months later. When I started this podcast. Yeah, he's a good guy. He was a fun interview. He was a really fun interview. Let's see, what else? Geez, I don't even know where to go now. So you got King of Paradise. You got King of Paradise this weekend.
Yep, KOP. Yep.
It's going to be a good show. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to attend it. I'm hoping that it's streaming on Twitch. I don't know. Did you hear anything about that yet?
I'll probably find out more about that towards the middle of the week.
Okay.
I know that we stopped all the online ticket sales because they get to a certain point, and then our worry is that people will show up who don't have tickets and not be able to get in. I think they'll probably put an announcement out before or maybe just prior to the show, like this is what we're going to do. I think maybe I could let you know a little early,
So I'm really hoping that it is, because it's like if I can't make it, at least I can watch it, because it's like I said, I stopped. There was like a brief period as an adult for like a good 3-4 years that I did not watch wrestling. I divorced my first wife, and then I just got busy. Television was the least of my worries, really.
Yeah.
But, and then all of a sudden, probably about 3 years ago, has to be about a chance of running into Paul Roma at Cumberland Farms, on my way to work one morning, and then he invited me down.
Yeah.
And I can't, and I just sat there talking for about a good 10-15 minutes. I told him I was like a huge fan of his as a kid growing up, really was. And, when he invited me down, and then I think the next one was coming up was like a free show. It was like the fan appreciation show. So I went down there. Basically, I probably only missed about 2 shows since.
Yeah.
So I've been pretty much, and because it's like I just loved what I saw. It's a good family-friendly show, and that's something that was not in professional wrestling for a very long time, because the influence of hardcore wrestling and the Attitude Era, and
exactly.
I like it to be a good family-friendly show. So it's they do a lot of good work as well. The Paradise Alley with charity work as well, like for their bigger shows.
Yeah, we actually done quite a bit over the years. I mean, that'd be a good 2-year period where all our shows were to benefit, the local animal shelter, the local food bank. We did a show, it seems like it's years ago, but we did the show at the JCC for the diabetes, So it's like we've done a lot of stuff to kind of give back to the community, which is a good thing. You also have to, make sure that you're getting a good product, and so people want to come see it. I think we're really much on the last, I think the last 2 years, 2.5 have been kind of a growing experience for Paradise Alley, where the trajectory, and you mentioned earlier with some of the talent we have, that trajectory is kind of going where, and that's how it gets sometimes. It kind of flatlines where you're, and you see it with other promotions too, bigger promotions where they lose talent, and then they're like, where are we doing? Where's our next big thing coming from? And I think we were in that for a little while, and we started doing the Friday Night Alley fights. and where there was like, an influx of newer talent, people that normally wouldn't see at Paradise Alley.
Right.
And the booking changed a little bit at the main shows, and I think with everything that we've done, and to one way, shape, or form, as weird as it sounds, I think the pandemic has made people look at their promotions a little bit differently and look at what they're doing. And we were in that place right before the last show we did, right before everything was really shut down. We were running some very hot shows,
Right.
and then the pandemic hit, and we were worried at some point that we were going to lose some of that fan base. So we did some of those studio shows. Maybe we did some dark matches. We closed down the facility. We really had the wrestlers, referee, cameraman, posted those just to keep the content. And I think those were very intricate parts to add in where people it kept us relevant, and people are like, oh, wait a minute, wrestling. And, the show, when we started coming back, got really big, and you're still trying to keep everybody safe, and we're still wearing masks, and we're sanitizing and cleaning. There's a lot of effort that goes in before a show just to clean a facility. Excuse me. And I think that trajectory is kind of just keeps going. Plus the talent we get from, the newer groups. You mentioned Battle Academy, Miracle Generation, Kylon King just won the title from Max Morzoff. Mateus winning the title back, winning the title. So I think that trajectory is on the upward swing. And there are obviously wrestlers from other organizations that kind of come in and have been very key pieces. And in some cases, those talent from other organizations have come in and won titles. So I think it kind of gives you that aura of where you're not sure what could happen at a show. And I always tell people, I'm like, get there early, because you never know what's going to happen after the first match to the last match. And you don't want to be the one to be like, oh, my God, I can't believe you're late. You'll never guess what happened. You're like, no. So it's always good.
I feel like the pandemic has really changed professional wrestling. You see what the big leagues are doing, or, groups like WWE. I feel like WWE has struggled to find their niche in the during the pandemic. They tried so many different outlets to try to get something going, and now they've been doing this whole Thunderdome thing, which is whatever. And AEW basically had the wrestlers around the ring, and I thought AEW was doing it really well. But it felt like it killed indie wrestling for quite some time. But it seems like a lot of groups are opening back up again, and you guys, social media and doing online content is very important. You guys kept doing stuff. You had a couple matches that you did, and you and Matt DeCourt did the Behind the Bell episodes, which it's always good to keep up on stuff like that, and it's just very important to put out content to keep people, to make sure that the fans know you're still here and that you will be coming back. And you got to run 3 shows, and I think back to back in September, all on one day, and then in October.
Yeah.
So I remember one was my birthday, so I was so psyched. I was like, that's what I'm doing,
Yeah.
But I remember sitting there for all 3 shows. I bought tickets for all 3 shows and sat there and just had a blast. You know what I mean? It was so good. Then there was a few months without any shows, and then a couple shows back, you guys, that was when you're basically the big return. And I just remember walking in, and the whole place was packed.
Yeah.
And I just remember, you can definitely tell that people wanted this. People wanted to be at a show. The crowd was such a big, an electric crowd. They were so into it, and it was so important. And I thought that was so amazing. And I ended up having a really great time. Thought that was one of the best shows that I had been to, obviously since the pandemic. But it just felt like a great show. And even me and Sign Guy were talking about it afterwards, and we had so much fun at that show, because it felt like it should have happened. This is what professional wrestling should be like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting because you talk about that show where we came back after we did 3 shows in one day, and that was like that was kind of production wise. That was a big thing for us because I don't think anyone thought we could really pull that off. And people were like, "How are you going to do 3 shows in one day?" We're like, "We got it."
It'll
and
happen.
People were, sure, and they're like, "We got it," and it was done in a way where we're like, "This is the way it has to be done," because we can't afford to do. You couldn't have 3 2-hour shows. You couldn't have 3 shows with 6 or 7 matches. You had to keep them kind of, let's get these guys in, then move these people out and bring these folks in, and then shut down, clean up, bring people back in. And it was really, it really kind of, from our perspective, it really pulled the group together because as a group, we were doing things and moving and cleaning and making sure we had everything and made sure everybody was safe and who had masks on and making sure that they understood what we had to do. And just the moving in and out of talent. Like you said, I think some organizations have struggled more to kind of figure it out. I'm happy to see that, places like, Ring of Honor, Impact, MLW, just to name a few, without talking about some of the, the smaller promotions, like our, Paradise Alley, Test Their Strength. You talk about Blitzkrieg. You could talk about, the promotions in Massachusetts, Rhode Island. It's nice to see that some of that they've survived. And I think you're right in the perspective sense where people are like, that first show was really big coming back. And people seeing the content, just be like, oh, they're putting out something. Even if it was a little taste, you're like, okay, cool. I can't wait to see those guys. Or, oh, I wonder if these folks are going to fight again. So I think it kind of made people look at things a little bit different. I mean, I think you noticed it like a lot of fans did coming into the school, to the facility, the training facility, is that, or as we call it, the Performance Center. We changed the whole look of that place,
The last 3 times I've been there, I had a different look each time.
Yes.
So, I mean, it was the one summer where there was the door and the truck was pulled up to the thing, and then, and then all of a sudden, then I walked in there the last probably 2 times ago, and then the whole thing was just repainted and just, I like the current setup from the last show. I think that's perfect, if anybody cares. But, I just think that it's a good presentation to the product that you guys put on, that one right there.
It's ever evolving too, because we looked at it and we said, what are we going to do when we come back? And we got a lot of young kids there, and they're like, kudos to them. They were like, they said, let's paint the place. It had been talked about, and they got together. They painted it. They did everything they had to do. We went in. There were things that we had to clean up. We had to do a little bit differently. We changed some production lighting. That's ever evolving with us. We changed the entranceway. We opened up. We did 2 things. We moved the wall, created a wall, and then what we did last show was we took that wall down, moved it, and then so what we were able to add fans and keep the as much social distancing as we could, and so we added the flags to the wall from different countries. Wrestling countries. I mean, everybody has wrestling, but there's certain countries that you should see their banner up there.
It looks like similar to like what the NWA does with the flags, and that part I like really? With the
I have no what you're talking about.
The old. I mean, that one, I'm kind of a huge NWA mark. So, like watching the old shows where they had the flag set up. Actually, I think Memphis did that. Memphis might have did that a little bit too, if I remember correctly.
Did do it, yeah.
So I think, hold on, there was one other question, if I can remember it. Anyways, I'll try to remember that one later. So you work with a lot of different young guys, but I know you're good buddies with the House of Pain. Tell me about these guys. I know you're kind of travel buddies with them somewhat, right?
Yeah, they're jerks. So I hate them both. No. It's an interesting. If they're going to see this podcast, I'm going to get a lot of nasty things said over them. But
I'll make sure they do.
I
This will
know
be
you're
the
the
this will be the teaser.
yeah. This would be like Bill's talking a lot of smack over here. But so no, they yes, they are friends of mine. I readily admit that they are heels and they do some bad stuff in the ring. Um, I my job is to catch them. Their job is to get away with it. And so we do travel, and it's fun traveling. It's a different experience being in the car with them than it is being in the ring. It's like to their degree, they trust me to some degree, and
Right.
they're like, you know what, he does his job. We're trying to cheat. We're trying to get away with stuff. If he catches, it's fine. If not, it is what it is. But they're actually very funny. We've traveled. We have the best story we have is, as we said when we became married, is I drove them to Montreal. I drove them. We left on a Sunday morning at 6:30 or 7 in the afternoon. Drove to Montreal for Great Northern Wrestling, Hannibal's promotion.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, we got up there. They wrestled. I got to meet Hannibal, and people were like, "Are you?" He's like, "And who are you?" I says, "Oh, I travel with them. I'm a referee." And he looks. He goes, "You guys travel with your own referee?" And they go, "Yeah." And he goes, "That's good to know for next time." And then there were a couple of people from the States there. They're like, "You're a referee?" They're like, "Yeah." And they're like looking at HOB. They're like, "How is he?" They're like, "Yeah, he's good. He's okay." And they're like, the guys are like, "Why wouldn't you referee here?" I says, "I don't know anybody here." And people are like, "If you come back here, you're going to get in the ring." And they had a lot of people there. That was a big crowd. So we drove in 24 hours, less than 24 hours, from North Haven, Connecticut to Montreal, back in the car, drove back and got them back here, and we were completely wiped out.
How
It was
was
hysterical, though.
how was the crowd there at the Great Northern Show? I mean, they seem to have big crowds, right?
Yeah, they had a big. I'm sure you're familiar with the old New Haven Coliseum.
Oh, that was my favorite building. Like I said, I think we talked about it off air. Like that was the place that I went to the most as a kid for wrestling.
Yeah, they had an arena that size, and it was pretty full. And I was
Wow.
looking, there's quite a lot of people around here. And from what I talking to some guys there, they're like, "Yeah, we just did a show. They had 10,000 people." And I'm like, "Wow!" So he definitely draws up there. I hope in the future to be able to get up there and work for them. That's kind of my thing now is looking at different promotions and going, I'd like to work there. How could I get in? Even if I just go work a match, fly myself in, maybe get paid, a few dollars and then head back home, But they're
Yeah.
HO fun to drive around with. We have different things we do, and they pick on me and I pick on them. They call me, their driver. I'm like, yeah, just give me the cap and I'll be like driving, you just call me your butler, so.
So you've worked with a lot of other people. But you've worked down for Brian Costello's promotion too before, right? Didn't you go down there with
Yes.
Roma and Mario and stuff?
Yeah, we did that's another great story. We left on a Friday night at 9 o'clock at night, drove through the night all the way to Indiana, just the university there, Notre Dame. There was a baseball stadium there. We drove all night, got to the hotel, slept for 2 hours, went to the venue. I wasn't booked, but Paul was friendly with Brian. Mario Mancini was wrestling, and so I got to do a match there, which was a lot of fun, and I was truly blessed to be able to do it. Met Cowboy Bob Orton, Brian
That's awesome.
Costello. Yeah, there was just a number of people. It was just nice to be able to sit you got Cowboy Bob Orton walking by, you're like, oh my God, But J.J. Dillon, got to meet J.J. Dillon. Did the show. We went back to the hotel, slept for 4, 5, 6 hours, got up, and then drove all the way back. It was funny because we drove back on the Sunday, which was my birthday. So I'm in the car with Paul Roma, we're sitting in the front seat. He's like, your job is to make sure I'm staying awake, that we're driving. And it was just a great experience. You're with Mario Mancini, Showtime, Marcel Williams, Zachariah Gibbs was there, just a number of people. And all it is just yelling and screaming at each other and yelling and, you're a horrible person, and them telling us stories and we're laughing, and then, you're making fun of each other. And I got yelled at profusely because of the fact is that I missed the Waffle Houses on the way there.
I was going to ask that, actually.
Yeah.
That was my next question. Why don't you like the Waffle House?
Mario Mancini made my life miserable to the Waffle House because I missed them, and I wasn't aware that I was looking for them. He just decided that I was going to pick on. So I got screamed at repeatedly, and it's an ongoing, thing with him and I, where he loves the Waffle House, and I respectfully tell him in a not so nice way that Waffle Houses are not good. I'll use that as I'm trying to keep it all PG for you.
That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah, I basically tell him that Waffle House sucks, and then he yells at me on our chat room, and I go back and forth, and I tell him I hate his cheesecakes, and he's like, I hate you, and so it's just a lot of fun stuff. So,
have you ever tried his cheesecakes? Because the pictures he posts are incredible. Like, some of them just look insanely good.
Yeah, I had I can't say that I haven't had some. I remember the first time he gave me a piece of cheese. He goes, you want cheesecake? I said, yeah. He came over. I'm like, did you just cut a piece off and leave it there and give me the whole cake? And it was, I can't say it. I'll deny I said it here, and I'll say I was drinking when I was doing this podcast. But it was pretty good, although my cholesterol must have been 400 by the time I finished that piece. It was a chocolate cheesecake with Reese's peanut butter cups and something else in there, and I was just like, yeah, it was a friend of mine ate.
Yeah.
Holy crap, this thing's good. He's a very good baker of cheesecakes, but I'm denying I said.
I've been wanting to get one, but off of him, order one, but I'm just like, I really don't need it. Like, I'm trying to drop weight here, so I've been working very hard. But every year around the holidays, he posts like a ton of pictures. I'm just like, oh my god, he's killing me around the holidays.
He made some. We had something we were doing, and he made like 6 of them, and I had like pieces of each of them, and I'm like, dear God.
So, who do you like working with in the ring the most?
I don't know. It's really kind of, there's like a mixed box. I generally enjoy working with everybody. Some of the fun people that just make me, and you've seen me in the ring, it's a little bit easier now because, I don't wear a mask, but I was for a while where I was able to laugh, and people would see me playing. But I'm trying to. Kylon King makes me laugh very much in the ring. He'll start saying stuff to me, and I'm like, look at him. Marcel Williams will say some things to me that I'm like, that's totally inappropriate. But you'll laugh. It's funny because you get yelled at for things, and you're just like yell back at people. It's like it seems like it's never really a personal thing. It's more a professional thing, and just people arguing with you. I'm trying to think. I enjoy being in the ring with Ichiban. I never know what the hell he's saying. Elijah Six will give me a hard time where I'm like, I just start laughing, and he gets mad because I'm laughing at him. He's like, what are you laughing at? I'm like, I don't even know. And he's like, you're old. I'm like, I'm old. He's like, yeah, you're old. I'm like, you're a jerk. And he's like, I
think he plays a really good heel. I mean, to the point where he kept in character after the last show. He kept in character while walking to his car while somebody said something to him. And he just played the arrogant heel. Like, someone was like, "Oh, you had a great match." He's like, "I know," and he's just like walking away. And I was just like, I started laughing, but I'm just like, it's so perfect, just like staying in character because nobody's. Remember back in the old days when we were growing up, everybody had to stay in character when they were out in public, and nobody does that. And I saw Lucas Chase do that probably a couple shows back, and he kept kayfabe this whole time as some patron was kind of getting irritated with him, and was trying to take it to the next level off, thinking that he was just being disrespectful, and I'm sitting here knowing that he's just playing his character, and I just, it was very respectful to see people keeping kayfabe, this day and age.
As you can tell, I'm a big believer in kayfabe during this podcast. I'm very big on kayfabe, to the point where people are like, "Come on!" I'm like, "What?" And they're
it's
like,
a lost art.
Yeah, it is.
A lost art.
Yeah, and the guys from HOP know that I'm big on it. There's a lot of people that Elijah Six, as bad and as mean as he is out there, there's things he does, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that. And he does things that you're just like, that's so horrible. I'm like, he's going to be in so much trouble when he gets home. But I'll tell you, I've been there when the fans have really started to push buttons, and I'm like, ooh, that's a little, you're pushing the line a little bit here. And that's where our jobs as referees come in sometimes too, is to kind of, get in there, hey, get back in the ring. It's like, hey, take it easy. Let's get back in the ring. You're supposed to be wrestling. I do the claps all the time. I'm always like doing this when I'm outside the ring because it gets people's attention. Because they're like, you trying to slap me and you just missed, the referees, I tell people, I go, we're the safety valve. I says, we really are. We're the ones that really, that mediator out there. And if you're not careful, things get, you've seen it, and I've seen it. Things get out of hand, and I'm like, wow, that just went quickly.
I've seen it. I've seen it so many times at shows where they get, things have gotten in hand. I've seen cops called and shows shut down. I've been to, just because Balls Mahoney decided to start a fight with a fan, anything like that, however many years ago. And then all of a sudden the show shut down. So I'm like, here goes my $20 or whatever it was at the time. So,
yeah. And that always goes well when you shut the show down.
Yeah.
So we're shutting the show down. You're doing what? Hey, listen, there's going to be a fight in the ring or outside the ring. Somebody's getting beat up by the end of the night. So.
All right. So usually go about an hour. So I guess we'll wrap it up in a second. But I want to know what's in store for Bill Thompson, Ref Bill. Oh, one more thing. Before I say that, why haven't you made merchandise yet? That's my main question, because
I know that a lot, and I just kind of been in that place where I haven't felt that I should or really do merchandise, but I've gotten inquiries, and I'm kind of in a place where two things. I haven't really found anybody to help me do it. And then I was going to do some stickers. I had somebody working on it, and then they flaked out on me. So I'm going to start working. I want to do something with a sticker with like a bit emoji or something. You could be your avatar on Facebook. And I was like, all I need is that character with a referee shirt on going, ring the bell, and do a nice little sticker for kids. A couple other people suggested some other stuff. And I'm like, eventually I will do it. It's just like, I'm having fun doing what I'm doing now. And I think if I get the stickers made, I'd probably just give them away. So, but
that's all I do. I bought a bunch of stickers and I just give them out everywhere. I mail them to people. They said, just shoot me a message, and I have to place another order, speaking of which. So I gave them all away.
Yeah, well, it's like, your sticker is on the back of my work laptop.
Well, so there you go. That makes me happy. So
someone who was at work was like, "Who is that?" I said, "Oh, it's a friend of mine, wrestling fan, but a friend. He also does, a podcast." And they're like, "Oh," and I said, "Yeah." I says, "Eventually, I'm going to get on the thing." I said, "I've talked to him about it." I said, "I just, you get jammed up and you."
What you realize it's been like a year since we've been trying to sync our schedules. I mean, I know the pandemic. I know you started working like another job around that time period.
Yeah, yeah.
If I remember correctly.
I work
Yeah.
for a shipping company. Rhymes with Amazon. Um, but for what's next for Ref Bill, listen, it's kind of again. I think I mentioned at the beginning. I've not told many people, so I'm not sure how many people listen to this podcast. So we'll see how many people know. I did sustain an injury, so I'm going to be out for about a month.
Man.
Yeah, so I'm healing up. But yeah, it's more this year. As I think I'm being a little bit more strategic.
Okay.
There's places that I've talked about I wanted to work. I've actually, in some way, I've kind of already started that place where I've gotten to work, do some work for NEW, company, Blitzkrieg. I want to continue to try to bring some newer referees into Paradise Alley.
Okay.
And I also want to be able to venture out and look at, I talked to looking at it going down the Ricky Morton School of Morton, just to even, hop on a plane, get there, work a show, jump on a plane, head back home. So it's a lot of that stuff. It's just kind of looking at things from a different perspective where I want to be able to be, because as you said, I worked for a while. I was working sometimes Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, doing 25 matches over a weekend. And, that was my biggest thing was I think I did 24 or 25 matches over a total weekend. And in one day, American Coliseum Wrestling, I did like 12 or 13 matches because the other referee didn't show up. And he had a stacked card, and I felt like I'd been hit by a car after that. But, I was there with Big Jim Anderson, and he's like, I don't even know how you're standing. I says, I won't be tomorrow. I says, I'll just be laying in my bed, and that's how I felt. But, just more getting out into some of these places that I haven't been able to get to, and just being able to work with some people and work with friends and enjoy everything. That's what it's all about. I think I told everyone, if you're not having a good time and enjoying it, I go, then you're in the wrong place.
That's very good. Good. That's the way to look at it. Speaking of Big Jim, we just had him on last Sunday. And,
Okay.
Anybody wants to go back and listen to that. And that American Coliseum, like that show that they held in the White Plains Mall, the way that whole thing was set up was just incredible. I really like that whole setup. And then the School of Morton, I've actually watched their shows a bunch of times. They have them streaming on the High Spots network. It's Ricky Morton's doing some good things there for for his students and stuff, and doing the showcase to such. It's really fun. They're fun shows. They seem like.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of I talked to is having a wrestling resume. And it's something I keep on talking about. And because when someone says, well, who are your trainers? You just take it, say, this is attach it, say, this is what I'd like to do. I'm not looking for you to, promise me the moon, the stars, and the sky. All I want is an opportunity so that I could work there and, add that so I could say, this is something that I wanted to do. I respect you, and just do that. And it's one of those things where, even if you get an opportunity to go work, somebody that I worked with in the ring, a wrestler is going to work at OVW, and he was very excited. I says, I got to reach out to them sometime, and he says you could definitely do a OVW, and he, very complimentary of the refereeing craft that I'm working on. So
they're a great promotion. Obviously they've been around for a number of years. They had the affiliation with WWE and Impact at one point as well. But they're still around. They still have weekly TV. I watch it every week, and it's still a fun promotion.
I used to watch OVW all the time, and you get caught once you start working in the wrestling business. It becomes a lot harder to really watch as much. And I get home at a very late hour, so I pull up stuff and I watch before I go to bed. And when I get up in the morning, I get on my bike trainer, I watch stuff. So it's like you have to be very, very strategic and very dedicated to the craft, so.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Bill. I want to thank you very much for coming on, and I can't wait to get you on another time. And then, of course, see you in public again at an upcoming show. I know this summer is going to be pretty busy.
No, I appreciate everything. Thank you so much.